I'm now recording. Right, so this is a lesson in your first sampling lesson on Reason. I've already got something down from James Brown Funky Drummer. I've already got that from YouTube. I open that up in QuickTime on the Macs, and I can instantly go to Edit, and I can trim. The reason I want to trim is because I don't want the whole track. Now I know this, you can listen to this track and try and find your drum solo or sample, but I actually know this track really well, so I go along eventually, because I've listened to it to about 5:20, and I find at this point in the song, the play marker here will play the drum solo.
1, 2, 3, 4, get it!
So I know that the drum solo goes on for about that long, I think. Yeah, he's already finished by then. So about that long there. I can now trim that, and I've got just that bit.
1, 2.
So I can now file and export that as audio only. That's sound only. So I click audio only, and I call it my JB trim, and I make sure it's in my music tech folder. Save. Okay. I'm going to minimize QuickTime so it doesn't stop recording, and I go down here and look for this orange icon for Reason. So I open up Reason, and just for today, because it's our first track anyway, I'm going to open this up in demo mode. We'll worry about the authorization later on. So run in demo mode. Demo mode allows you to do everything apart from reopen a track for the second time. Reason has a pretend rack of equipment that you can plug equipment into, and down here it has a sequencer where you write the music for the equipment you've added. If I go to Window, I can bring up the tool window, and under Utilities I get some techie stuff, and the first thing you should always add to the rack is what we call a mixer, because the mixer, as you may have seen in some videos, is the thing that all the instruments get plugged into, so you can create a whole track and control how loud all the instruments are. So when I add my first instrument, and we're doing sampling, so I go down here, and I've got my advanced sampler with the blue window there. So I drag that in underneath the mixer, and because it's pretty cool, you can press Tab on the keyboard, and you'll see that it's been plugged in to the mixer in channel 1. This then goes to your headphones. So you can see all the instruments would plug in here, and all the sound goes to your headphones, all the speakers. If I press Tab again, it switches around. This is your basic sampler setup. This folder here will load up a sound and put it on the piano for you to start making music with. It's called a file that has sound in, is called a patch, but a patch is actually a full keyboard of preloaded sound, so it's a keyboard that's already been made. So we're not doing that today because we're going to do our own sound. So underneath here, I can, on this little triangle, I can bring down the rest of the sampler and see an empty piano. So on this folder button here, this is where you're loading up one sound at a time. So I click the folder, desktop, music tech, and there's my trim.
1, 2, 3, 4, get it!
I click OK, and it puts that file right across the piano. Now the actual original recording is on C3, which is the middle key of the piano, and if it goes further down the piano, it slows down that recording and sounds pretty crap. If it goes up the piano, it sounds like a chipmunk. So what I want to do is make sure it only for now plays on C3. So I move this little square and say I only want this to play on the original note for the original speed. And to confirm that, down at the bottom of this blue window, I've got two C3s, low and high, so I know it's only going to play on that key. Then I can right-click on the name, which is Control-click on the Mac. I can edit the sample, and we can see the noise. Now, what I want to do is basically sort out the beginning of that track, because it does not begin yet with the drum solo.
1, 2, 3, 4, get it!
I don't want him counting 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, get it!
So, with this bar at the bottom, I can zoom in on the beginning, first half, and I can watch him say those words. and I can spot when the drum solo actually starts.
1, 2, 3, 4, get it!
Now I watched carefully, and it was that one there that was the beginning of the drum beat.
1, 2, 3, 4, get it!
That's where the drum is. So I move the start up to about there, but what I can do is zoom in even more on that to try and make sure I get the very beginning of the drum. Now the problem with this sample right now is that it begins with another noise going on. I don't want that at the beginning of every one of my drum beat bars. That's a guitar noise. So that's not where I want to start my sample. So I'm going to zoom in or zoom out again, and I'm going to wait until he's played 1, 2, 3, 4 for another bar, and then see when the next bar starts. 2, 3, 4, 1. I spotted it was that one, and if you watch it again, that's the beginning of the next bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So I quickly move the start point while there, and I zoom in to get it absolutely dead right. You can see. Okay, and that becomes a sample I can use. So now it's a sample I can use. I can crop the stuff out at the beginning. So I press crop, and now that starts as a sample. I can save that, knowing that that's the noise it's going to play on that key. Down here is the music. At the moment I've got no music. We actually build music in Lego blocks. So with my pencil, I can click this bar here, the first block, and it will draw me a Lego block. And what I want to do is I want to work on that one bar. So I have left and right arrows. I'm going to move the right arrow along a bit, and you'll see that if it's on loop, when I press play, the music will play those first two bars and then loop back to the beginning. That's so that I can work on just that part of my track. I actually only want to work on one bar, so I'm going to move it to there. It's now looping one bar. To get to the actual piano and write music, I go to the arrow, double click this Lego block to go inside it, and there I can see my piano, and there's my C3 playing my sample. Zoom in on that so I can see a bit more information. And I can now see the four beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can get my pencil and get a note to hold that key down for me. So I draw a long note right across the bar. But something's wrong. It's not looping correctly. What's wrong is that the original drummer is going slower than my computer is moving that play marker. So 120 beats per minute, here's the tempo down here. 120 beats is too fast. My computer's going faster than the drummer, so I'm going to slow this down to about 100 maybe. See what that sounds like. That's a lot better. That's almost sounding like a drum beat being played. There's a problem if you listen at the end. There's a problem where, if I'm being really picky, there's a double drum kick. Ba-dum. If you listen to this again. You might not hear it on the recording, but there's sort of a double ba-dum at the end. That's because now my computer's going slightly too slowly. I'm getting the beginning of the drummer's second bar inside my first bar. So I'm going to speed my computer up by 1 because it's pretty close. Go back to the beginning. And I now find out that the drummer is going at 101 beats per minute, and so is my computer. That is a sample I can use, and what you would now do is start writing your track by getting the piano to play and start that at different locations. And I can now create varieties of versions of that bar to write my own drum beat. And that would be your first sample lesson.